Hello Cobras! Today we're going to talk about cradling. And before we start, we're going to talk about dominant hands. Your dominant hand, as we've discussed in practice, is the hand that you throw with. If you're right-handed, your dominant hand is your right hand, and that hand will start at the top of the stick near the throat. Your left hand will be on the bottom near the butt end. If you're left-handed, that means you throw, your dominant hand is your left hand, you throw with your left hand. Your left hand will be at the top of the stick, and your right hand will be at the bottom of the stick. Eventually, we will learn how to cradle with both hands, but to start, and to get it right, we're going to learn how to cradle with our dominant hand. As you can see, I'm wearing my gloves. We're never on the lacrosse field without our gloves. When you practice cradling, you want to practice with your gloves on. It doesn't matter if it's hot, if it's cold, have those gloves on. The stick feels different in a gloved hand than it does in a bare hand. Have those gloves on. When we start our cradle, we want to make sure that our upper hand is holding the stick gently in the fingers so that the stick can roll in the fingers. If we grab the stick too tightly, we have no control over it. So by letting the stick roll in the fingers, we can begin the cradling motion, and it actually looks like a cradle, as in cradle the baby bird. This is how it would look for a left-hander, and this is how it would look for a right-hander. Now you can see I'm holding the stick kind of low. On the actual lacrosse field, we always want to keep the stick higher up and further back, but for now, since we're beginners and we're learning, we're going to have to keep the stick a little bit low. Eventually, as you learn how to cradle with your fingers and let it roll on your fingers, you add your wrist to that motion. From the side it looks like this. You can see I'm moving my wrist, and then eventually the forearm gets involved. So you have 3 points working at once: the fingers, the wrist, and the forearm. And eventually you have a full cradle. The lower hand in the cradle is your guide hand or your anchor point. It's very important to remember that your lower hand must not grab the stick, because if you're squeezing the stick with your lower hand during a cradle, you can't turn the stick. Your lower hand actually makes sort of a circle with your fingers together. The stick goes inside that circle and it guides the stick. And when I say guide, I mean you can move it around like this to change the angle of the stick during your cradle. Very important again to remember that the guide hand at the bottom of the stick toward the butt end does not grip the stick, but serves as a guide, and it holds the stick loosely so that the upper hand can do the cradling motion. This is how it looks from the side again for a left-hander. You can see my fingers, the stick is resting in my fingers. This is how it looks from the side for a right-hander. And this is how it looks from the back. Left-handed cradle, right-handed cradle. It's an important thing to also learn, and you have to remember, is you want to feel the ball in the net. If the ball is rocking around and knocking while you're trying to cradle, it means that you're not using a smooth enough motion. If you add smoothness to your motion, the ball will actually stay still in the pocket and feel like it's in the center and in one place, and you won't feel it knocking around. When you've achieved that, then you have a smooth cradle. And that's beginning cradling.